Today we are going to see the installation part of the React, and also we'll see what React is exactly, why we are going to use React, okay, the modern technology. And the other part, we'll see the project structure after creating the project, okay. So these are all things we are going to see today. First, we'll see the installation. As you guys already have installed the same commands, I'm going to project creation, you need to use create. In Angular it is different, okay. In Angular, if you follow camel case notation, it will work, okay. So you might be knowing what is a camel case notation. Here you need to give a project name, so it will install all the necessary libraries, okay. So there are three main libraries which we have discussed earlier also. That is Babel and Webpack, and also one more is npm itself, which we have discussed. Okay, so basically it will create a node modules. Inside that we'll have a lot of packages. Okay, so Webpack will be a code bundler, and Babel will act like a compiler over here. Okay, so basically here we'll also have a dev server. Okay, so Webpack, Babel, and dev server. So each one have their own role over here. So what Webpack will do, Webpack will convert all your standard JavaScript features to older or backward compatible JavaScript, right? Which will support all your browsers. So basically ES5 has a support of all browsers, right? When it comes to ES6, ES7, 8, 9, and 10, it has a very poor support. That is the reason we use a Babel compiler to convert all of them to older JavaScript, right? So that is why we need a Babel compiler. And the second one is the Webpack, which we have discussed earlier also. It is a code bundler. And we have a dev server, which will help running our project, okay? And in localhost port 3000, we'll be able to see the running project on the browser, okay? And if you want to change the port, you can do even that. So what you can do is it will automatically ask you if the port is already being used by some other project, like say 3000 is being used by node, then it will ask you whether you want to change the port. So that time you need to say yes. Okay, let's talk about what is React exactly, okay, and why do we need a React, and how it is different from other frameworks and libraries which is there in the market right now. Okay, so basically React is a JavaScript library which is used to build a single page application, and it is developed and maintained by Facebook. Basically it is a view layer, okay, and it is component based, right? So why it is component based? Because many of the modern technologies are component based, so all your components will become reusable components, and it will be isolated code, or you can say a piece of code which all the components, after you collect them, you integrate them, then it becomes a application, right? Block by block you will be collecting them, then integrating them, and then you will be making an application, right? So that is why we say it is a component based architecture. So let's say if I am considering e-commerce application, so how am I going to create a components for that, right? Let's say if you are building a simple website which will have header component, footer component, forms component, and you'll have a home component and about component, like this different components together makes a application, right? So that is why it is a component based architecture, right? And let's say this React can also be integrated with other technologies like Angular, okay, Vjs, okay, because it's a library. And one more thing about this is as it is a library, we do have a option of choosing our own set of libraries when you want to install something, right? So that is there in React, because let's say as it is a library, it's a very small, right? You will not have a lot of the options in a library. So in that case, you will be thinking of what to install. So you will have the ownership of installing external libraries and using them in the React, right? So that is a good thing about React. And we do have a Jsx support. So basically it is a combination of JavaScript, HTML, and XML. Okay, so we say it as JavaScript XML. Okay, so why we say it as a JavaScript XML? Because we will be combining JavaScript, XML, and HTML together in a single file, right? So that is the reason we say it as a JSX file, okay, or JSX. So this is all about React. So now let us understand how React is different from other libraries or frameworks. Let's compare it with Angular, because Vue is not there much in the market of India. Okay, so let's compare it with Angular. The library, and in Angular we do have two-way data binding. In React we have to do it manually. React unidirectional data flow. Files separation, we have it, right? So in React we have JSX. Angular has separate files. So services is not only for like calling a. It shares a common functionality also, for common data also, but it's like a store, right? Here in Angular, but in React we do not have that. Let's say if I want to share the data to unrelated components, right, then we do not have option at all. So that is a good thing about Angular, that we have services where we can share the data to unrelated components, right? So basically in Angular
Yes.
we have parent to child, child to parent, okay, all this we have it. To unrelated components, if we want to share the data, then we use services, but in React we do not have that. That is where we are depending on Redux. How do you share the data to unrelated components? Because in React, data flows only in one direction. Where even if you want to share a data child to parent, then you have to make a callback function call. That is also like you cannot change the parent data in child. That is also not possible. React build size. Angular is
Maybe,
framework. We do have lot of files. Then of course the build size will be bigger.
yeah.
React is a library, have a very less. So if we compare based on functionalities, then we have a lot of things. Like in Angular, we have forms, built-in forms, but in React, we do not have such things, right? Sometimes
Yeah.
and install form make and use them. Okay, fine then. So let me now explain the bigger comparison about React and Angular is the library and framework. So in framework, we have got everything which is required to develop a full-fledged application. But when it comes to React is just a library, okay, wherein we will not have much of the libraries to create a full-fledged application. Let me just tell you one of the examples. We do have services in Angular, but we do not have it in React, right? And many other external libraries like say Fetch, Axios, okay, even router we need to install it, okay, but router is there in Angular inbuilt. So these kind of
Yes.
things are there in React and in Angular. So with the help of Angular, build a full-fledged application. Okay, so I'm creating a project. You can see with the help of Create React App, I'm creating a project. We'll see project structure. Okay, it will be little similar to
Yeah.
Ruby. You can relate to it. Okay, after creation of this project, we'll talk about the project structure. So you might be knowing about a single page application, right? What is the difference between multi-page application and single page application? So basically, a single page application is like only one HTML file will be read on the screen, and without reloading a page, it will update the content. Okay, now our project is created. We can go ahead and check it in our folder. Okay, fine. Let me just close this. My app. Okay, so you can see my app project got created, right? So basically now if you can see, we do have a lot of folders. Okay, you can
Yeah.
relate with Angular project structure. So if you can see there, we do have source folder. Okay, in public folder we won't be having there in Angular, but node modules, package.json, package log.json, these are all files we will find it in even Angular. So let me explain. In source folder, we will put all the source codes which we will be writing, right? Like components which we'll be creating inside source only. Okay, all the components, everything will go inside source folder. Okay, and when it comes to public folder, in public folder we will keep all our static files like images, audios, videos, and some static JSON, right? JSON files, everything will be keeping inside public. So sometimes what we do inside source folder only, we create assets folder, or inside the public folder we create assets folder, and inside that we keep the pictures, images, and audios, videos, so JSON, everything we keep it inside assets. So we manually create it. Now, when it
Yeah.
comes to node modules, you might be knowing why node modules. So all the packages, as we have created the project, right? It has installed around more than 100 packages. It has got installed. Okay, I can see 67 packages have been installed, but when it comes to Angular, it is more than 100. 67 packages have been installed, and that will be located inside node modules. So with the help of npm, whatever you'll be installing in this project now, that will go and store inside node modules only. That means you will find it inside node module. Now when it comes to package.json file, it records all our dependencies, right? All our configuration which is required for React, that is kept over there inside package.json file. When it comes to package.json file, so it will record the exact version of the packages that we install, right? So this is what we have inside this. So if we go inside source folder, you will find many of the files again, right? So we do have app.js files. This you can consider as a app component. Okay, js files I'll be creating, that I will be considering as a components. Okay, but basically in Angular you will just run nggc to create a component, right? So here we do have app.css file, and this is my testing file for my app component. Okay, so here we do not have any command to automatically create the components. We do it manually, everything. Okay, so we do have index.css file, index.js file, we do have it. We have a service worker file, setup test file, configuration files. So these many files we have it. Inside public, we do have index.html. This is where the application gets started, right? Even in and we do have index.html file, right? So from here, the index.html browser, and here you are telling div id equal to root slash div. In Angular, we say app component directly, right? Okay, so I will get started in the body, but here we have div id equal to root div. So that means I'm displaying something which inside the element which has the id root. So I'm first taking the element by its id. So what do I do? Document dot get element by id root, and then display the component which I want to display. So which is a starting component, right? So in Angular, we have app component, which is a starting component, and you directly write app component like this. But here in React, we write it in this way, right? So now index.html is over. Now let's go to index.js file. So as soon as you run index.html file, the browser will download index.js file, and it will run this file. So as I told you that React DOM will render method. Okay, so render method is used to render the components. Okay, components template it will render. So React DOM dot render, React DOM will render this app component inside element which is having the ID as root. Okay, is this ID residing where? It is residing index.html. So what will happen here? It will display the app component. Okay, so see there what it says, react dom.render. Okay, so it is in a strict mode, and it is
Yes.
displaying what? App component inside the element which is having the ID as root. So in this
Yes.
it will run the application. So this is the basic flow of. So starting file is index.html and index.js.